What is up, guys? It's a Mystar back with another video. Today I wanted to talk about how to manifest. Don't mind the freaking hair tie on my hand at the start of the video. So how to manifest in a proper way, in a kind of like more precise way. And I want to talk about this in the concept or from the perspective of my own personal experience, because I do have another person that I'm about to shout out, Russ Alien, in on YouTube and also TikTok, but Russ.alien on YouTube. I met him and we ended up just kind of meeting in the city, just out of the blue, sort of kind of thing. But you'll obviously see what I'm talking about as we get into the later part of the video. But at the moment, I just want to talk about the prerequisite or the concept of manifesting in itself. So I think the first thing, definitely the first things that you need when it comes to manifesting, is being having the belief in yourself, having the belief that whatever you want to carry out and see in your reality will come true. All right. Belief takes a certain level of knowing in a certain way, because in order to believe something, you kind of have to have this thing like, I know that it's true regardless of X, Y, Z. And then also you need faith as well. You need faith that you'll be able to put the actions to the test for your situation. Be able to have faith about your ability to carry things through. Similar to the belief aspect, but belief is more based on, like your internal. You believe it regardless of what's happening in the external. And then faith is more based on, the external, where even though something may hinder or block you or obstruct your ability to be able to do so, of whatever you're trying to do, having that faith is being able to know that regardless of what happens, you'll still be able to carry whatever you want to carry out through to the end. So it's like kind of two sides of the same coin in that aspect. And then when we come to your imagination as well, you obviously have to have the idea, you have to have the vision, which comes with the thought and the feeling, and your ability to be able to envision that is like you creating an internal world, aka a vision of fire, the fire element. This is you creating that internal world for yourself to be able to manifest that and actually create that in the first place. So yeah, those are the three things, the three superpowers. Shout out to Dollar Man. He's the one who put me on all that stuff with the faith, belief, and imagination being your three superpowers. He talks a lot about that on his channel, but more on his older videos. So if you want to check him out, I highly recommend. And when it comes to, as well, just your ability to be able to create an idea, to create an imagination, is a power in itself. And that's what we use to manifest, like I was just saying with the imagination. So your ability to be able to envision and imagine that whatever that seed of idea is, and then your ability to be able to carry that out, because everything you do with your body is like the ritual, and whatever you do with your mind, that's like the witchcraft. So you're creating an alchemy inside of your mind, inside of your mentality, by thinking and feeling a certain way, and then whatever you do after that will be like the ritual and spell. So in some aspects, you may think that you've got the witchcraft concept in check. I've been guilty of this in my own past. Not concept. And when you have the witchcraft concept right, like you've got all the right thoughts and feelings, you've got all the right mentalities, and so on and so forth, you may not have the ritual and the spell aspect of it in check properly, because you will think that, all it takes is a thought or a feeling, or you'll think that, maybe if I just think and feel this way but I still do the same action as I was doing before, then that might be okay. And either way, you're not keeping these things in balance, where you're aligning your witchcraft, your thoughts and your feelings, and your ritual and spell, which is your actions, the things you do with your body. Then as an example, to get it down to the 3D and to get it more practical and so you can make sense out of what I'm saying, is like, let's say you have this idea, as thought and feeling, to be really, really confident, to express some form of confidence, right? But when you go out into the world, you do not actually enact on this idea because you had the imagination first, right? You had the vision, but you didn't have the faith or the belief in yourself, and so you weren't able to actually carry the ritual and spell out towards the end. Because somewhere down the line you had doubts, you had fears about something, you doubted your original imagination, and this is you slowly like putting out that fire, putting out that imagination, and so now you can no longer actually see that vision come through because you've put so much water, so much emotion, or too much air, or too much earth, which is like practicality, making sense out of shit. And like that's kind of like the opposite of faith in a way, because when you're making sense out of things, sometimes you need to have faith and belief, and sometimes that thing may not make sense. So as an example, sometimes you may need to have faith and belief that you can actually do something, even though time and time again you might have been shown that you can't actually do it. But you also know deep down from your experiences, right, that every single thing that you've gone through has led you to know that you'll still be able to get it eventually, because it may be something small. Now, if you just take that onto a larger scale, then you'll be able to see it from many different aspects of your life, not just the small aspect that I was breaking it down from, but you'll be able to see that in actuality, that's like a mechanism in life itself that we're all utilizing. And we're all putting faith, belief, and imagination into something. But a lot of people base their faith and their belief into the physical reality, which ends up putting out their imagination, putting out their fire. And so this is why a lot of people don't see their manifestations come true, because, or on the other end, they also just end up thinking, oh, if I just think and feel a certain way, then everything will change. But you need to carry out the ritual and the spell as well. So you can think and feel that you're clean all you want, but if you're not going out and cleaning the house, you know, the proof is in the pudding kind of shit, you know? And then so on and so forth. You can think and feel that you're rich all you want, but if you're not actually making the steps to do things that would lead you to accumulating some form of richness, whether it's money or relationships, whether it's skills, ability, like whatever kind of richness you're trying to achieve, you may be thinking, oh yeah, I'm rich and I'm abundant in this area, but what are you actually doing in terms of the ritual and the spell? Are you just sitting at home, or are you actually going out and getting those skills, getting those abilities, getting those things that you want, whether it's money or whether it's relationships, or maybe it's a mix of all of those and in between, you know? So, as the reason why I even broke down this video in the first place is to give you a concept on how you can manifest a lot more effectively. And instead of thinking, oh, why is my manifestations not carrying out? Now you know that a lot of the power that you're putting behind it when it comes to your faith and belief is going completely against your original imagination. So you need to have all three of those in alignment. And this is like a form of balance in itself. This is why people talk about balance being so important. But a lot of people don't know how deep it really goes, how deep the rabbit hole goes, and so on and so forth. But now you know, and you can do better. So that's why I'm talking about stuff like this in the first place. So, in reference to Rust Alien that I mentioned at the start of the video, Rust.Alien on YouTube. He's a YouTuber that I met in the city, and I want to give a preface to my original intention for going into the city. I had the intention in my mind to go out into network because I want to build a wider network, and you know, if I was to begin to sell a product or to begin to whatever I want to do, that requires a network. You know, like it's teamwork makes the dream work when it comes to all of us manifesting and creating a reality we want. So if I want to see a change in the world, I want to be the change. I don't want to just sit around and think, oh, the world needs to be changed, and then maybe make a YouTube video about it, or like whatever, like, and then leave it, but no, I really want to make a difference. So I'm trying to enact the ritual and the spell, which is I have the witchcraft, I have the imagination that I want to be or see a change, and I don't really mind if it doesn't matter to me how big that change is, but I just want to enact some form of change. So yeah, I want to be or see some form of change in my reality. And, whether or not that changes the external world is, I'm trying to just let go of that concept or that expectation itself, because expectation is the killer of joy. And that's just going to limit my own manifestations and my own ability to be able to create the reality I want in the first place. Because it may not take, or it may not require, or it may not even have an ability or an aspect of me changing the world per se. But, at the same time, I'm willing to try and I'm willing to give that a go, but just to let go of the expectation in itself that it will be played out in a certain way. Because if you watch my other video the other day, I think it was 2 days ago or 1 day ago, I was talking about how limitation is a biyeetch. And limitation is going to keep you locked up and caged in a mentality. And limitation is just not a nation. It's not an Asian that you want to be in. So when it comes to limitation, that's going to obviously stop you and restrict you from actually doing more and expanding and growing. So in order to be more free and allow your mind to be free, letting go of expectation is a way that you can let go of more of that limitation, more of that Asian energy, which is just a nation. An Asian is just a nation within your mind. And you're supposed to be able to create your own nations and not be under someone else's nation. And that's a word that's created prior to you in existence. So it's obviously a word created by someone else. And Asian in itself is, may not be an Asian that you want to be in. Well, I'm recommending that you do not, but at the end of the day, it's your life. You can do whatever you want to do. And no, I'm not talking about, anyways, you'd get it, like, if you hear what I'm saying. I'm not talking about anything like that. It's talking about the word limitation, expectation, like those kind of words. Any of those are Asians. And if you're stuck in one, then you're stuck in a nation. Whereas the fire nation, the earth nation, the air nation, the water nation, But if you become the avatar, that's just you being able to take all of your different areas of yourself and be able to create a new nation. That's why the avatar created the Republic City. It's like creating a new nation. And what do they do in Republic City? They're more like balanced. It's not separated. All the different nations come together to create one. And that's what you should be doing in your mentality. Be able to take the different Asians that you already have, not the ones that are created, like expectation, limitation. No, not those ones. Those are created. What Asians do you already have within you? And then how can you create a new Asian out of that? A more free Asian, not so limited and stuck like every other nation that's inside of your mind, which leads you to feeling stuck and thinking stuck. And now you think that, oh, my life isn't changing. Because initially you had that thought and that feeling that you were stuck in the first place. And then it bended in, became your reality, became your experiences, and now you're looking out in the world, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm stuck. I'm frozen. My life hasn't changed. So yeah, when I went to the city, I had an imagination in my mind that I wanted to carry out. And I wanted to enact some form of networking and take myself out of my comfort zone as well. Because I like to do this every now and then for balance. Balance purposes, love. So I take myself out of my comfort zone when I can, to kind of bring balance into my life, do something that I wouldn't normally do. All right. Initially, I went into the city to actually see my friend, but I ended up catching the wrong tram. And then, as I'm catching the wrong tram, I'm like thinking to myself, oh, she might not be there in the city, but you know what? I just need to keep going anyway, because I didn't have any data right now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, let me just catch the tram anyway. Ended up taking like half an hour more than I normally would have from the tram. And when I got to the city, I did get the message, and she said that she had to go back because of her brother having a curfew. So I ended up, what's it called? I ended up going into the city and staying there anyway, because when I was there, I was thinking, well, obviously I had the initial intention of building a network, meeting new people, putting myself out of my comfort zone kind of thing. So, you know, I was like, okay, cool. Like, let me stick to what I was initially thinking about. Let me stick to my original plan because I like to stick to it. Consistency, Taurus, that's a Taurus quality. Tauruses will get a lot more benefits or positive outcomes from doing things in a more consistent way, generally, unless it's more of an opposite season, which right now it's Scorpio season. So yeah, when it comes to my original imagination, I was like, yes, I still want to carry this out. I still want to do this because I have the faith, I have the belief, and I had the original imagination that I was going to go into the city and then create a wider network to meet someone new, to step out of my comfort zone, so on and so forth. So I did not have a full-on plan about like how I was going to go about this. I didn't even have like a full-on plan about what I was going to do. I did have a rough kind of idea because I usually like to have a rough idea, but generally I was just kind of going into it a little bit blind. Then ended up going towards Starbucks in Melbourne Central, and I was like, let me just go to Starbucks and get a coffee, and I'll see if I can like find someone to meet. And at this point I was like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. You know, maybe I'll just walk up to someone random. Like I kind of had that thought in my head because I have done that before when I was younger. I used to like walk up to randoms and just start talking to them because like I would think to myself like, you know, I don't know what to do as an icebreaker. So I just kind of carried it out, and I was like, let me just talk to them, see what happens. Like, you know, instead of overthinking it and worrying about how to go about it, you know. Sometimes it just takes you, and a lot of the time it just takes you to just go through the experience. And that's where the faith comes in, you know, because you may be thinking, oh, like maybe, oh, what if it doesn't turn out the way? But you just need to have faith that it's going to benefit you regardless, even if the outcome is negative. It's still going to be a benefit in the end, or whatever you have faith in. Just make sure that it's strong enough for you to be able to actually do that thing. And the belief as well, you know, having the belief in your own ability, having the belief in your own mentality of why you're actually doing that, and that conviction. So when it comes to when I actually went to Starbucks, I eventually walked up the stairs and I was fully going to go out of Starbucks. I was like, maybe I'll just go outside, but then I looked outside and it didn't really look nice. So me personally, I'm just judging based on like, okay, what sounds more appealing, what looks more appealing, what feels more appealing, you know what I mean? Just in this moment, I'm just like, okay, outside doesn't really look more appealing. I'm just not vibing with the way the outside looks right now. And me envisioning myself going outside, no. So I turn around, look at this table, and this table next to me, there's this two guys, and there's a big camera. And mind you, I didn't really think much of the camera. In my head, I kind of thought, oh, they must be, what's it called? They must have been filming, but now they've probably stopped filming and they're just talking or something. That was my initial thought. And I was like, okay, let me just sit by these guys because they were laughing, they were having a good conversation. Like, it just, at first glance, it just seemed like a better place to sit than any other place I'd seen. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, let me sit there. Seems like a nice atmosphere, nice vibe going on here. So I sat there and I'm like, okay, cool. And then as I'm listening to their conversation, I end up thinking that I heard New Zealand. Like, obviously I'm not listening to their conversation very well you know. I only heard something about like streaming, about them streaming, and then about how one of them does poems. And I thought that's really interesting because I personally used to do poems, and I still I haven't written one in quite a while, but I used to do them quite often. Nowadays I'm more focusing on like freestyling, which you usually see me do in my freestylaganza video. Check that one out if you want to see me freestyling. So when it comes to the poems, it just reminded me of myself. I was like, yes, like let me freaking find a way to get into this conversation because they sounded like definitely my kind of vibe, and I already had that thing in my mind where I was like, okay, like I really want to meet someone in the city that's more like-minded. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to get into this conversation? And then I'm like, oh, who cares? Let me just like go, because I'm more in that mentality naturally as well. I want to give this as a preference. I'm naturally more in this mentality of like kind of pushing myself to step out of my comfort zone and to not overthink things. So the more that you naturally put yourself into a certain mentality, the more that mentality will start to become more natural to you. So because I'm already in that mental state where I'm like, okay, nah, just push yourself, push past the fear, push past the thought, let go of your expectations. Like I always say in my videos, you know, let go of your expectations. The more that I start to do that, the more that I realize that it comes naturally to me as I'm actually out in the world. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, how am I going to get into the conversation? But obviously still fighting off those thoughts, still fighting off the expectation bullshit. And then I look up because he was talking about New Zealand per se. He wasn't actually talking about New Zealand. But I looked up thinking he was talking about New Zealand, and then I started laughing and we kind of made eye contact, and I was like, oh sorry, like I'm like, as I'm looking at him, I'm like, this is so awkward, I need to say something. I'm like, sorry, I thought I heard you talking about New Zealand, so that's why I was like laughing and looking up, because I kind of wanted to hear your opinion on New Zealand, because I'm from New Zealand and I've lived there. Now I live in Australia, Melbourne at the moment. So yeah, then it led to us having like a full-on conversation. We ended up talking about all the different things that we were into, and it turns out that a lot of us are into the same stuff. Like Rust.Alien, the one I'm shouting out on YouTube, he is what's it called? He owns a business, and not only that, he's got a YouTube channel. So that was the one main thing. Obviously, you know, if I had put the two and two together and thought about the fact he had a literal camera in front of him, but at the same time, you know, like a camera could be for anything. That was my kind of thoughts. I was like, a camera could be for anything. It doesn't have to be YouTube. He could be like director. I don't know, like whatever he could be. But you know, I just didn't put much thought to it. I just thought, oh yeah, like he films videos. Okay, like cool. And then yeah, it turns out he does YouTube as well. And his videos, he talks about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying new things. And I thought, wow, that's kind of really interesting, because that is the exact kind of mentality that I was in coming to the city in the first place. So I was like, we were talking about this like as we started to get more into the convo, and then like the fact that he used to do like a lot of rapping and write raps and freestyle, and then Vincent, the other guy, Vincent, he does poems, and I was like, wow, this is so interesting. And then I was saying how like I think it takes like a certain degree of seriousness and so on and so forth. That once I say that, that's more getting into the video that Russ did. But yeah, like we were talking about all the different similarities that we had, and then I thought it was like cool as, because it's very much the fruits of what I talk about and what I try to teach and what I try to explain on my YouTube videos. I always be trying to show that your mentality bends into your physical reality. And so seeing it in live action, because I've got that mentality and I've done this similar situation before. So you can't just say, oh, well, it's just by chance and blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, you just put yourself out there. That's the difference. But that is the substance. So you're mentally putting yourself in that space where you're like, I want to meet someone new, right? And then all your actions start to follow out after that. They start to become the ritual and the spell that you carry out in order for yourself to manifest. So because I had that imagination, that mentality first, and then I went into the city, which is why I got that certain outcome. In the past, when I'd done it otherwise, Like, I just had the intention of making a friend when it walked up to randoms in the city. I just had the intention, I want to make a friend, I want to connect to someone, but I didn't have that intention like I want to make networks, I want to build up my network so that I'm with more like-minded individuals. But as well, that also takes a degree of being like-minded. Like, I can't expect people to be like-minded if I'm not even like my own mind that I want to be like-minded like. So I had to enact that out. I had to carry out the ritual and the spell, which is me doing videos, me talking about in my real life, me being open about the stuff that I'm into and the stuff that I believe, me carrying it out like on a day-to-day basis, like I practice what you preach kind of energy, because you don't get results if you don't practice what you preach. And even if you fail, as long as you keep up the practicing what you preach, you'll be able to see the results in your reality, which is the results is what I'm talking about. The results is that I met two individuals that are both into the same thing and similar things that I'm into. They're both determined, they're like-minded, even though they're not necessarily into spirituality per se. I mean, they could be, I can't actually speak for them, but they seemed like, just like people that are not necessarily into like the spiritual wave like everybody else in the mainstream type shit. You know what I mean? And that's not dissing anyone, because at the end of the day, I notice a lot more spiritual people seem a lot more, like if they're deep in it, like a lot of them ain't even as spiritual as they think. And then a lot of people who are in the real world per se that aren't really into spirituality can tend to be some of the people that are a lot more spiritual. And this is like, always look at it from an equilibrium perspective, there's good and bad eggs in every single group of people. You can't just narrow it down and say one person is like this and one person is like that. That's just stereotyping. Unless you're looking at it from an equilibrium perspective. Sorry about my freaking crinkled ass shirt, guys. I need to buy an iron. That's not cute. So yeah, when it comes to, what's it called? When it comes to that kind of energy, I manifested that situation and they manifested that situation, because I'm not just going to take all the credit for it. It took three to tango in this situation. It took all three of us to be on a similar mindset, a similar path. We all wanted to carry out or be serious about some kind of thing. So we were already in that space of wanting to meet more like-minded individuals, because we were already in that space of being an individual ourselves. We chose to be more of ourselves and chose to kind of do what we wanted to do, even though maybe not a lot of people around us were doing so. But because we wanted to do that and we pushed for it more and more, then we all got to see the fruits of our labor in our reality. And I'll also show you guys a little clip from his video as well, if you want to check that out.
You know what I mean? No, his friends just walked past the door. I was like, is that a setup? Or did you set that up? But,
But I don't know this guy, man. I just met him.
Oh, wow, no way.
Yeah, my idea.
Like you're getting along really well.
I know.
And then you can go on his channel if you want to see the whole video. So yeah, those are examples of real life examples of how you can actually manifest, how you can actually create. There's like a little testimony type of thing that I wanted to break down for you guys. And now I've got like two new friends. I don't really like the term friends personally because it has an end at the end. But I have two new people in my life that I'm willing to make some more networks with and possibly be able to build something out of, And even if we don't end up building something out of our connection, like per se, like whether it's a new network of individuals that we like, I don't know, we create some whole new situation or system that we can help the world or help ourselves or whatever the heck may be. But our ability to come together or not is besides the point. What the point of this video is to talk about your ability to manifest, your ability to carry out your imagination. Using your faith, belief, and imagination, you can carry out that ritual and that spell for you to be able to manifest and create the reality that you want now. But it takes you actually being able to fight off certain things. It takes you a certain degree of ignoring and being ignorant to your physical reality. It takes a certain degree of you just having blind faith and conviction that you'll be able to carry out your imagination. And it obviously takes you to have an imagination in the first place. You know, if you don't imagine and you don't envision yourself to be somewhere, then, you know, you're just going to stay stuck. You're going to stay stagnant. And, you know, that's up to you. At the end of the day, it's your life. Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge. But, you know, just looking at everything for what it is, you know, if you are in a stuck space, that's because of your mentality. And ain't nobody there to blame except for you. And, you know, you can say, oh, my situation's like X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, we're all product of our own decisions, and our own decisions become, you know, our reality and our life that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So that's not pseudo shit. I'm not just talking out of my ass. So yeah, shout out to Rust Aliens, shout out to Vincent. Freaking awesome, guys. So happy that I met you guys, and so happy that this was also a good opportunity for me to teach and to show what I already do on my channel. Now I've got like a little bit of like a back pockety energy to help myself in my next travel and my next videos, and my videos are just going to get better and better, bish. Better and better. And it takes that ritual, that witchcraft first. You have to have the mentality, the thoughts and the feelings first, but you also have to have the actions and the you being able to enact that ritual and spell in alignment with those. You can't just have one or the other. You know, you can't just act on something without having the mentality first. You can't just have a mentality without acting on it first, or without acting on it afterwards. You know, so it's like a sequence that you need to kind of follow. And then once you start to follow that little sequence and work that mechanism in the right way, bitch, you'll be manifesting like a boss, okay? Alright, peace guys, laters, enjoy.